The Heroes and the Hidden by Kitty Cat on AO3. Episode 37, Chapter 32. Don't push me to rest. Koyama's legs bounced quickly as Tsukauchi got his notes in order, tapping them against the tablet loudly. She shouldn't be this nervous, but she couldn't help the chill that swept up her spine. 1 year prior had been the same. The same dark, cold concrete room, the same soundproof panels are built in, the same handcuff clipped on the metal table. Izuku still stared at the one-way mirror, his hands quickly signing under the table. The only words she could catch were something about Shouta and loopholes. She frowned, placing a hand on his armrest. He jumped slightly before grabbing it with his own. The warm, freckled hand calmed her nerves slightly. She had given him up a year ago. Not to the day, but it was close enough. Tsukauchi placed the papers down neatly, looking up at the pair. Again, she had been deemed to stand in place of a personal lawyer for the young boy. It wasn't regular for someone, even a pro, with a personal history to sit in place. But this was a unique circumstance. The boy would probably shut down if anyone else sat here, besides from Hizashi or Shouta. But Hizashi had patrol and Shouta had stayed at their apartment with Hitoshi. Are we ready to begin the questions? Tsukauchi asked, dinging a stoic face. He lost all softness when he switched into detective mode. It was a little concerning, if she was letting herself be honest. She looked down at the younger boy, who gripped her hand tightly. His eyes shone with such knowledge and sadness that he no longer resembled a child. He looked like a soldier who had seen the horrors of the world. It was sickening. She gripped his hand back as he nodded, his green hair falling in front of his eyes. You may begin, detective, she said slowly, looking back up. To begin, please state your full legal name, age, and your legal quirk status. Tsukauchi starts after clearing his throat. The word choice was specific. She could tell that much. He was trying to help in his way. Izuku Midoriya, 9 years old, registered quirkless. The kid's voice was harsh and level, with no inflection shown, no nervousness, uncertainty about what he said. True, Tsukauchi stated, marking down the question. What occurred on the events of XX September on our current year? Izuku's eyes twitched slightly, the only sight of discomfort in his stoic body. I went about my morning like usual. I attended school with Hitoshi. I was asked to help a group of my classmates with their homework during lunch. They took me into an alley away from everyone else, and they used their quirks against me. They had found out about my quirk status. Koyama wanted to fight some children, as Izuku began listing all their quirks and effects on him and his body. It was awful that a child should face such harsh actions due to something that they couldn't control. Every motherly instinct in her wanted to grab the kid and hug him tight. But she was a pro hero, standing in as a lawyer. That would be unprofessional. The ringleader of the group was Koichi Akana. Her quirk, elongated limbs, was used to hit me from large distances and prevent me from getting away as a sort of cage. It would be amazing for hero rescue work, as she could grab civilians from burning buildings on high floors or stop those on roofs from committing suicide. Every person he went through, he spoke about how amazing their quirk would be in a hero world. Permanently, as a rescue hero, it was amazing to see how fast his mind worked. Please keep to the questions I asked, Midoriya, Tsukauchi said, gesturing for him to continue. Izuku winced slightly at the name, before nodding. Koyama understood the need for professionalism, but Tsukauchi was taking it way too far. He kept quiet for the most part, occasionally scribbling something in his notebook. But the name was loud enough to send an echoing thunder through her head. Izuku nodded, his shoulders tightening. Hitoshi stepped in. He got hurt by the kids because of me. I tried to protect him with a knife I had been gifted that I kept in my shoe. I was hit by something furry and large before blacking out. His hands twitched in his lap, trying to sign something, but the lack of fingers made it imperceptible. woke up alone in an alley in the dark, covered in blood like stuff. Tsukauchi nodded, writing down more notes. The scratch of the paper was going to drive Koyami insane. All true. Why would you deem it necessary to try to use a weapon to protect your friend instead of calling a teacher for help? Were you trying to escalate the situation? Or perhaps get back for the way you were being treated? Izuku tightened his grip on Koyami's hand, shaking his head. No teacher would help me. Adults don't like to help those less strong. They never have. He glared at Tsukauchi across the table, his eyes full of hate. Hate. It was such a strong word, but there was no other way to describe the look. He had loved Tsukauchi, even with his harsh questionings. The switch was dramatic. It was heartbreaking. True. Tsukauchi murmured, looking into Izuku's eyes. Koyami could barely see the way his hands shook as he stared at the boy. Why did you not come to the police station? Izuku nodded, looking at the one-way window. I did, and I saw Hitoshi was safe. So I left. He got hurt because of me. It was my fault. I can't be around him. His voice wavered slightly, before he rubbed at his eyes, swallowing more tears. I was found by a teenager on the street, who allowed me to stay with him for a night. In the morning, we tried to wash ourselves at the beach. I was taken by two offenders then. Naomasa wanted to puke. Izuku's gaze of hatred and betrayal stung his eyes and made him feel horrible. Naomasa wanted to puke. Izuku's gaze of hatred and betrayal stung his eyes and made him feel horrible. He didn't want to ask these questions. He didn't want to make the boy relive these moments. He was just a kid. But Naomasa had a job. If he treated every informant who entered through these doors indifferently, he would never be able to trust the answers he received, even with his quirk. Though he wanted to end this questioning and let Kayama hold the kid, he couldn't. He would risk the pro's wrath and Izuku's undying hate. It didn't help matters that his boss was in the observation room at the moment. She had been interested in his wide number of cases and had pushed him to interrogate the boy as soon as he could. He hated to rip the kid from Aizawa and Hitoshi, but it had to happen. They needed to solve this case and move on. True, Tsukauchi said as his vision phased with an overlay of green for 2 seconds. And his stomach hurt on the right side. He didn't understand why his quirk worked the way it did, but he knew what the two feelings were. What happened in the 2 weeks that you were held by the villains? The questions were all standard protocol. He could only edit them slightly to fit the interrogation. Izuku stared at the observation room before looking back at him and placing his arm on the metal table. He rolled his sleeves up slowly, exposing the scars that teamed up his arm, mixed in with the kid's self-inflicted scars and freckles. There were a series of M's across his skin. He had seen them before, but he hadn't exactly looked closely enough. Each M was written in the same handwriting, slowly and methodically carved into the boy's skin. 7 M's of different sizes coated his inner arm, shoulders to wrist. His 2 fingers stubbed twitchily slightly as Izuku clenched his fist. He wanted to use me as a toy, as a way to relieve his stress after a plan failed. He let go of Kayama's hand, slowly touching the missing pinky finger. He took my pinky after the first night, waking me from a nightmare. I didn't think he meant to, by how he reacted. He seemed almost surprised afterwards. He took my ring finger, and then carved the M's into my arms 2 days before President Mike found me. Tsukauchi switched how he sat, placing one leg over the other. He wanted to tell the boy that he would be okay now, that he wouldn't let him go back to foster housing. Hearing the story made him realize how bad of an idea it was. But he needed to stay professional. What do the M's stand for? Izuku traced one on his arm, pushing his finger into his skin slightly. I don't know. He didn't say. False. Tsukauchi says slowly, at the end of the red overlay to his vision, and the pain in his left side. The kid had yet to lie, so what did he gain from this lie? Izuku glared at him, putting his hands off the table and slowly rolling down his sleeves. It means monster. My quirk has labeled me as a monster by everyone, regardless of their standing with the law. True, Tsukauchi said, trying not to let his voice waver. What transpired before you were saved by the voice hero present Mike? Izuku flinched slightly at the word saved before gaining his composure. He shattered my legs with a basketball bat, like one would in a rage room. I don't know why he decided to take me out of the bar that day. He needed some food, and he took me to the grocery store. I saw Present Mike and tried to signal him. He didn't listen. I don't know what happened until Eraserhead showed up. Tsukauchi jotted down the word bat before looking back up at Izuku. See you later. Work now. His heart ached for the boy, but he couldn't show it. Bottle it up and keep it locked. What can you tell us about the villains who took you? Any information will be assisted in closing the case, so do not leave out any detail. Tsukauchi rubbed his eyes, taking another sip of his now cold coffee. He had used the security footage and Izuku's descriptions to get a clear drawn mugshot of the two villains. One was pasty and had cracked skin. Izuku had said he was in desperate need of lotion. There was something about his eyes that were familiar yet distant to Naomasa. Of course, the database came up empty. Same for the man made of mist. That didn't exist. His office door was pushed open slowly, making him upset. All of his office workers knew to knock before entering, and Kayama had taken Izuku out the second the interview was over. His anger quickly subsided as Uchiko stepped into the room. Nodding to him, he bowed his head in respect, trying to tidy up his desk so she could sit across from him. What brings you to my office, Uchiko? Uchiko smiled, sitting down and setting her binder on his desk. Having your boss sit across from you was never a comfortable experience. She could pull him his rank at any moment. No real reason need to. I wanted to congratulate you on the interrogation, she said simply. He tried not to wince at the harsh words. He hadn't interrogated Izuku, had he? Thank you, he responded politely, biting down his thoughts. They weren't helpful right now. Yuchi nodded, sighing. It really is a pity that the kids are still being born quirkless. They're such a large target for violence. It hinders our entire operation dealing with those false claims of bullying and targeting. Sure, kids are harsh, but they need to learn how to handle it in a quirked society. People will always be too harsh for them. She laughed slightly, looking at Naomasa to agree with her. Naomasa swallowed down his pie and nodded. Of course, he said slowly. How could one with awful ideas be allowed to handle matters of people's lives? She was teaching false principles and allowing stuff to happen by blaming those who she deemed weaker. That wasn't the law that Naomasa had grown up loving. She took that as an agreement, smiling softly. She spoke to Naomasa for an hour more about his case, seemingly bored of Izuku's. It was sickening. Everyone should get the same treatment. That's what the law was. It was meant to be fair. And he was starting to wonder if it truly was. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Okay, this wasn't as sad. I'm scared. It did say in the notes that there was going to be more fluff, so I'm hoping that there's more fluff. We're halfway through. We're not halfway through. I just realized it's 118 chapters. I am fucked. You are fucked. We are fucked together. I actually think this is a really interesting way that his quirk works, where he sees either red or green, which is really cool. Different people do different things, where like in his head he literally thinks true, false, things like that. I think there's also something about feeling pain, which is really, really interesting. I think the fandom messing around with Tsukauchi's quirk has always been such a huge fascination for me, so I am happy to see that. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.